Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you the books that I borrowed from the library. If you watched one of my previous videos, I did a bit of a Sunday afternoon vlog with my sister and we went to our local library. And while I was there, I picked up a couple of books and I thought I would show you guys what I borrowed. Okay, so I borrowed 7 books from the library, which was way more than what I expected. I actually usually always borrow 10 because that's the limit, and I have so many books at home that I haven't read that I've been meaning to. So I went there and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna limit myself. I don't want to get more than 5 because most of the time the books I borrow, I only read maybe like 30% of the books that I borrow because I don't know, I get so distracted. And then I'm a real mood reader, so like I read what I feel like at the time. It's really hard for me to plan what I want to read. Like I always do this. I will set like a list of books that I want to read for a month, and I probably read about 2 out of the list because I really go by how I feel. Like if I feel like reading it, I'm gonna read it. Even if I want to read it for October, if I don't feel like reading it when I'm about to start it, then I'm not gonna read it. Like I go so much off mood. So I borrowed 7 books even though I wasn't going to, but I'm just so like, it's so irresistible. Like there's so many books there that I want to read. So I got 7, and the first 2 that I got is Bird Box and then the sequel Mallory. So I actually saw Mallory in Big W the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, like I would love to read the series, but they didn't have Bird Box. I'm not going to buy the second one if I haven't read the first. I did watch the movie Bird Box when it came out, when it was like there was so much hype about it, and I loved the movie. I thought it was so scary and I love horror movies. So for me to be scared in a horror movie really shows that they've done something right, because I was raised on horror movies. Like I've been watching horror movies since I was like 7. So when a horror movie actually scares me, I'm like, oh, this is good. Like they've done a good job. So when I watched Bird Box, I was so anxious the whole time. Like I was literally like on the edge of my seat. I felt sick the whole time. I was like, what's going to happen? Like it was so stressful. And so if the movie was that good, hopefully the book is just as good. So I got Bird Box, and then Mallory, I think it's new. I think it came out this year in August. Let me just check. Yeah, 2020. So this came out this year. How exciting that I found it at the library. I was pretty shocked that I found both at the library. So like I'm pretty keen. I feel like I'm going to read these soon, actually. When I'm finished the Bloodline series, I feel like I'm going to get onto these because I love a horror, and like they both have the little horror label on them. I love a scary book. Like I think people underestimate how scary horror books can be. Like I remember one time I was reading, when I was in year 12, I read The Shining by Stephen King, and I'd already seen the movie. And I remember right like at the end when it starts to get really scary, I was like up late reading. And at the time, my bed went out in a way where I couldn't, if I was lying in bed, I couldn't see the bottom of my bedroom door. And I was like in the peak of the scariness right at the end. And I hear and I see my door just like push open. And I was like, oh, bitch. Oh, not today. Like, I'm not getting murdered today while I'm reading this horror movie, this horror book. And I was so scared because my door was closed. Like, how did it just push open? I had no idea. And I literally like withdrew like into my bed, and I was like, oh my god, like what is that? And then I like peered around the corner of my bed and my cat had somehow pushed it open, and I just see his like little face looking up at me, and I'm like, you little shit, like you scared the hell out of me. So it like horror books can be so scary. I feel like I want to make a whole separate video about Stephen King. I've read a number of his books, and some of them I love, and some of them I'm just like, what am I reading? Like, this is just so odd. And like, not odd in a good way, odd in a like, what happened? Are you okay, Stephen King? Like, what happened? But I'll make a whole other video about that because I feel I've read enough of his books that I feel like I could make a separate video about that. But I'm really excited for Bird Box and Mallory. And they're like not too big either. It's another thing I find with Stephen King books, like they can be cut down by like 300 pages. So I'm really excited. So these are by Josh Malerman. I think that's how you say it. So I'm super keen, especially for this one because it's a new release. I got it at the library, which is good because I didn't have to spend money on it. I'm trying not to spend as much money on books. So I'm really happy that I can like read this series for free. That's awesome. The third book, I was going to say second. The third book I got is When We Were Animals by Joshua Gaylord. I'm so excited for this. So when I was in the horror section, I actually got a number of horror books. I saw this and I know they say like don't judge a book by its cover, but who doesn't judge a book by its cover? When I saw this cover, I was like, oh, that's so pretty. Like I picked it up because I was like, I love the cover. I need to know what it's about. And it sounds really good. They describe it as a gothic They describe it as a gothic coming of age story. And it's about how, I think it's like, I think it's once a year, or like, yeah, once a year, all the adolescents go wild and like in the town. They have like, all the teenagers have one night in the year where they can just like run wild and like, hold on, I feel like I should just read the blurb. It says, for 1 year, beginning at puberty, every resident breaches during the full moon. On these nights, adolescents run wild, destroying everything in their path. And the main character promises her dad that she's not going to do that. And basically, I think it's a look back on her adolescence as she's an adult. And I think it's kind of like, how did I get here? She's like a devoted suburban housewife. And I think it's like looking back into when she was a teenager and what would have happened if she had breached and if she had like run wild during the full moon. I feel like I'm not portraying it well. I feel like I should have just read the blurb out. It sounds so good. Yeah, maybe I should just read it out. It says, a gothic coming of age tale for modern times when we were animals is a dark, provocative journey into the American heartland. I'm keen for this. It's not a new release or anything, but it sounds interesting. The fourth book I got is The Boy Who Drew Monsters by Keith Donoghue. This sounds so scary. So it's about this 10-year-old boy who 3 years prior nearly drowned in like the town lake, and ever since then he has like suffered severe psychological trauma from that and doesn't leave his house and draws all these like really scary, eerie monsters. And basically the book is about how these monsters start to like come into their own and like take a life force of their own. And it's like how his family and the housekeeper and his friends like all get intertwined in this like ghost story, I think. It sounds really good. It says, while those around Jack Peter are haunted by what they think they see, only he knows the truth behind the terrors that lurk in the outside world. Keith Donoghue's The Boy Who Drew Monsters is a mesmerizing tale of psychological terror and imagination run wild. Wow, I can't wait to read that. How scary does that sound? I have like 4 horror books that I've borrowed from the library. I'm going to be so spooked. This is perfect though, because October, Halloween. I should read all these books in October when I finish the Bloodlines books. It's like so perfect because Halloween's coming around. And I feel like in America, or like I follow heaps of YouTube channels that like book YouTube channels, and because it's like cold when it's coming up to Halloween in America, they're always like, and they love Halloween in America, so they're always like reading really scary books around Halloween. So maybe I can too, even though it's like getting warm and it's sunny and it's bright and happy in Australia. Maybe I should be reading, oh god, I have so many books that I can read that are scary. I'm so excited. After all those horror books, I actually got a couple of autobiographies as well and non-fiction. And one that I saw was Sick in the Head by Judd Apatow. I remember was it Apatow? I don't know. I remember when this book came out and I really wanted to get it, but it was never something that I was like, oh, I want to spend my money on it. Like sometimes books are expensive. I remember seeing it in a bookshop at the airport once and I was like, oh, I should get that. But I'd already brought a book with me and I was like, well, I'm not going to carry 2 books around when I'm only reading one, and I'd already started it. It just wasn't practical. So I never got it, but then I saw it at the library and I was like, oh, this looks perfect. I'm so keen because I love a lot of his work, and he's worked with a lot of people that I really like Key and Peele and Jerry Seinfeld. So I'm really excited to read this. And basically when I was looking at the contents at the library, it's just got like a list of all these like famous people that he's worked with. Like it says Freaks and Geeks, Jay Leno, Amy Schumer, Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, Jerry Seinfeld, Key and Peele, Lena Dunham, Leslie Mann, which is his wife, I'm pretty sure, Sarah Silverman. Like it looks really good. So I think he has like a chapter on each person that he's worked with. And like, yeah, I don't know. And I love an autobiography because I also love looking at the pictures. So like, look at this photo of like Jerry Seinfeld. Can you see it? Like how he's so young there. How funny. I'm so keen for this. It's a huge book though. Like look how big it is. So I got that, which I'm keen for. And then another one that I got was a book that I've actually borrowed before. It's by Gloria Steinem, The Truth Will Set You Free, but first it will piss you off. I borrowed this at the beginning of COVID, because when the library was about to shut down, they did this thing where you could borrow 20 books. And I was like, this is the best. Like, borrowing 20 books from the library, it's literally double what you're normally allowed. And so I went wild and borrowed heaps of books, and this was one of them. And about halfway through isolation, I stopped reading the books that I borrowed. I don't know why, but I think I was getting to a point where I was getting really anxious during COVID because I'd lost both my jobs and it was just getting stressful. My parents were kind of putting pressure on me to find a new job, and it was really hard to find a new job in a pandemic. So I kind of stopped reading as much towards the end because I was just getting like anxious and a little bit not in a good headspace to just sit down and focus. So I never read this book, but I'm really keen because Gloria Steinem is a huge feminist and activist, and I love that. Like, I love reading feminist literature. I feel like I want to make another video as well, actually, just about like feminist books that I've read, because there's so many that have really shaped like my perspective on things. I actually was a major in gender studies when I was at university, so I've always really loved reading from feminist writers like Roxane Gay, Chanel Miller. I have a few books that I could actually, and like Clementine Ford. I love Clementine Ford. I feel like there's so many books that I could talk about in another video, so maybe I'll make another video about that, and then when I read this I can talk about it in that video too. It sounds so good. Like, it says it covers topics from relationships and patriarchy and activism, so I just feel like this is right up my alley, and I'm kind of sad I didn't read it during COVID. I think it would have been like, I really feel like I'll just enjoy this book, but at the same time, maybe it's a good thing that I didn't, because I mean, the world's in a pretty dark place at the moment, and I already wasn't dealing that well with how things were going in the world during COVID, during isolation. So maybe this would have just made me feel depressed, whereas I feel like I'm doing a little bit better now. And in saying that, I come from a very privileged standpoint to be able to say that. So I do acknowledge that I'm very lucky in a lot of aspects, but sometimes it's still hard not to get down about certain things, because and I'm an empath. So like, when I see other people going through things, like, I really empathize with them, and I can really I feel like the weight of it a lot. So, yeah, maybe it's a good thing I didn't read this when I wasn't already feeling like myself. But I'm so keen. Like, it just looks so good, and like, it's got really like cute illustrations and stuff, and I love reading. Oh, look at this one. I love that she's reading a book that says Fearless Woman. I love these. I can't wait to read it. Maybe I'll read this after I finish the Bloodline series. This is my problem. I have so many books. I just want to read them all at once. Like, I can't wait. I have to read them all at the same time, because I want to read everything. I want to read everything that's ever been written. I want to read it all. I have to. Like, I get so overwhelmed and excited. So yes, I can't wait to read this. I'm so happy that I re-borrowed it, because I nearly didn't. So I looked at my sister and she was like, bitch, are you gonna read that? You already borrowed it and you didn't read it. But I'm definitely gonna read it this time. I'm definitely gonna read it this time. I can't wait. And I love the colors. How pretty is it? I'm going to talk about the next book. I'm getting too distracted. The last book that I got that I couldn't believe that I found was Ruth Bader Ginsburg's autobiography, My Own Words. I can't believe I found this. I think they put it out because of her recent passing. And as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I have to get that. Like, I'm very lucky that I got it before someone else did, because I know how many people love her, and I know how many people were really sad at her passing, because she was so instrumental in so much activism with feminism and women's rights. Like, she was the one that started women's rights movements in the 70s for a college in America. And she was like the leader of the pathway for women's equality in the law and judicial system. So I'm so excited to read this. I don't even have words. Like, this is another book that I could talk about if I make a feminist book video. Like, she was just so influential in so many things with feminism and activism and intersectional feminism as well, which, if your feminism isn't intersectional, is it really feminism? Like, that's what I learned. I've learned that a lot, especially because, like, I remember in high school when I first kind of discovered feminism, I was super passionate about it, but I wasn't educated because I was the first I'd heard about it. And back in 2014, it doesn't sound that long ago, but so much has changed and developed in those last 6 years. So, and then when I went to university, I was like, I have to major in gender studies. Like, I need to know more. I need to educate myself more. And I feel like I've grown so much and I've learned so much that I went from such a very basic knowledge of what it is, and I feel like, I feel like I still don't feel like I have all the answers, but when I listen to like Clementine Ford and so many other feminists that I love, I feel so inspired and I feel like I get it. Like, I don't know if I'm making sense. I feel like I'm just rambling. But I am really excited to read this. She was just such an influential woman, and I actually feel like gender studies should be a prerequisite. Like, I feel like they should be teaching that in high schools. And the people that disagree with me are probably people that don't know what gender studies is, because it's so complex, and gender is embedded in every single thing we do. Every single interaction we have with a human, there are gender, like, oh, I don't even know how to explain it. I was just saying, I was like, I feel like I get it. And I struggle to articulate what I'm talking, like what I mean. But like, gender is so deeply embedded in everything that we do. You don't even notice it half the time. Like, oh, I feel like I could talk about it forever. But at the same time, I've really struggled to articulate what I'm trying to say. I feel like I'm just going to stop there. I've talked about all the books that I've got. Otherwise, it's going to get way too philosophical and political. So those are all the books that I got. I'm so happy. I love the library so much. Like, I get so happy when I'm there, and I get so like distracted. I'm like, oh, I just want to go into every section. I just want to borrow every book. So after I finish the Bloodline series, I feel like I'm going to get into as many of these as I can. I would start them while I'm reading the Bloodline series, or like after I finish a book. Actually, I just finished the Indigo Spell yesterday, so I feel like I could start one of these books. But I think I've said it in a previous video, I have the worst memory. So if I stop a series, read something, and then come back to the series, I'm like, shit, I don't know what's happened. I don't know how the last book ended, what's going on. Because I did that with the first Bloodlines book, and then I read Midnight Sun in between. And then when I went to the second book, I had to reread the ending of Bloodlines, because I was like, don't know what happened. I don't know what's going on. What happened? Who's who? Where's Adrian? So, I try not to read books in between while I'm reading a series, because I just will forget, and it changes the experience. Like, it's nice to read it like bang, 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 like one after the other. So yeah. All right, thank you guys so much for watching my channel. I was so happy because I woke up this morning and I had 30 subscribers. So it's not like a huge milestone or anything, but I get really happy when I see new people joining the channel. So thank you so much to everyone who's been subscribing. Thank you to everyone who's been watching my videos. It means more to me than I can say. And if you're new here, welcome to the book club. I can't wait to make a few more videos, so hopefully I'll see you soon in the next one, and thanks for watching. Bye.